Without any hesitation, Rick arrived at the top of a residential building, aimed down at a car below, and fired a grenade launcher, the explosion engulfing everything around it in flames. Rick was once a black market mercenary with a perfect mission completion rate, becoming an undefeated underground mercenary king. One day, Rick returned home to receive the biggest job of his life. Recently, the son of India's biggest drug lord, Owen, was kidnapped by rival Amir after his father was arrested. Upon learning the news, the furious drug lord threatened his family's safety if he didn't find a way to rescue his son. The first person the drug lord thought of was Rick. At that moment, Rick was drinking with his teammates in a valley. With the alcohol starting to kick in, he leapt off the cliff without hesitation. He was captivated by the deep water at the bottom of the cliff, which helped him maintain focus and temporarily forget the haunting figure in his mind. This was the source of his inner pain and the reason he clung to the mercenary life. He was seeking a way to escape. So when Nick mentioned this mission, Rick accepted without hesitation. Their opponent this time was Amir, a notorious local drug kingpin and the archenemy of Owen's father. The kidnapping was allegedly for a hefty ransom, but the real aim was to seize his rival's business. Rick and his team quickly devised a rescue plan and moved into action, with Rick disguised to infiltrate Amir's stronghold. Pretending to be there to negotiate a ransom, Rick ensured Owen's safety. After confirming Owen was alive, Rick pretended to leave to get the money. Just as he was being escorted out, a sniper outside took down a guard instantly. Another guard, still in shock, was taken down by Rick, who broke his neck effortlessly on the stairs. Inside the room, 3 guards suddenly heard a loud knock at the door, causing them to tense up, realizing it wasn't their planned signal. Sensing danger, the leader grabbed a handgun and cautiously approached the door. Just as he signaled his teammates, 2 bullets shot through the door, taking him down instantly. In their shock, Rick burst through the door. The gunfire quickly drew the attention of more guards outside, but they couldn't get past the sniper blocking the entrance. Meanwhile, the guards inside couldn't match Rick's lethal pace and were quickly eliminated. Only one young boy remained, readying his gun to shoot. Rick swiftly disarmed him but spared his life, signaling him to leave. The boy fled quickly. After securing Owen, Rick stashed him in the trunk, expecting a smooth escape. However, he underestimated Amir's influence in the area. Even a local military colonel was in Amir's pocket. The news of Owen's rescue spread fast, and Amir immediately collaborated with the military to lock down the city. Rick brought Owen to an abandoned building, recording a video of the successful rescue to send to his team, and then led Owen into a nearby forest. Their extraction boat was just ahead, but there was no news of the payment transfer from the drug lord. Suddenly, an unknown group boarded the extraction boat, eliminating all guards on board before anyone could react. Nick quickly sensed the trouble on the boat and alerted the sniper nearby to investigate, but he was killed by an assassin. The enemy seemed fully aware of their plan. Clearly, someone had betrayed them. Nick saw on the satellite feed that 2 police boats were approaching Rick and Owen, signaling the change in circumstances. Rick had no choice but to lead Owen to safety, but the assassins quickly tracked them down. Amid heavy gunfire, Rick hid behind a rock, and as the assassin removed his mask, it turned out to be their employer. Using the cover of a grenade's smoke, Rick managed to evade the ambush with Owen. Back at the abandoned site, Rick quickly started the car, preparing to escape. Suddenly, a Bengali police car appeared, initiating a deadly car chase through the streets. It was an intense, thrilling chase. Meanwhile, Amir joined the chase in a stolen police car. As the situation escalated, Rick took Owen into a nearby apartment building. The narrow, interconnected hallways gave Rick an advantage, allowing him to evade the police with ease. Any officer who slipped up was swiftly taken down by Rick. But as the number of police increased, Rick was forced into close-quarters combat. After dealing with several officers, Rick knew staying there would only draw more police. Rick prepared to move Owen, only to run into Amir again. In their struggle, both men fell to the ground, each holding a dagger and testing each other's moves. Ultimately, Rick's skills prevailed, disarming Amir. Just then, a car suddenly struck Rick, throwing him off balance. As Amir aimed to finish him off, he heard Owen calling from a distance and was forced to save him from the police. It turned out Amir wasn't after Owen's life. He was acting out of desperation because the drug lord's accounts were frozen, leaving him unable to pay. Amir took this drastic action to protect his own family. Just as he was about to leave with Owen, Rick returned, driving a truck into Amir, and took off with Owen once more. However, with their large vehicle attracting attention, they couldn't shake off the helicopters above. Thinking quickly, Rick decided to jump off the truck with Owen. They hid under a nearby bridge, while the driverless truck sped into a barrier and exploded, attracting a crowd of onlookers. Taking advantage of the chaos, Rick and Owen quietly slipped away, hoping the staged accident would deceive Amir. Later that night, Rick and Owen took refuge in an abandoned factory, where Rick tended to his wounds. Nick finally revealed the whole truth. They had been double-crossed. Rick could have left Owen behind. Escaping the lockdown city alone would have been much easier. As Rick considered abandoning Owen, the haunting figure in his mind flashed again. He felt that instead of seeking redemption through death, he could find it by safely reuniting the boy with his family. Owen was shocked by Rick's decision. For the first time, he opened up to a stranger, revealing that life as a drug lord's son was far from glamorous. While moving again, Rick and Owen were attacked by a group of teenage gang members, eager to prove themselves. Despite their numbers, the inexperienced teens were no match for Rick and were easily taken down. Hearing police sirens nearby, Rick led Owen into the sewers, where over 200 officers were combing the area, leaving them with little chance of escape. He had no choice but to call his friend Gasper for help. They were eventually rescued, but Rick was shocked to learn that Gasper had switched sides for money, now working with Amir. At that moment, Rick revealed a painful truth. His only son had tragically passed from lymphoma. Unable to watch his son die, Rick had joined the military. But by the time he mustered the courage to return, he was too late to say goodbye. This was a scar he couldn't erase. And it was the reason for his kindness towards children. Later, as Rick and Gasper drank together, Gasper suddenly hinted that he'd saved Rick's life only for money. Their connection had long since faded. Amir had offered $1 million reward for Owen. Gasper, weary of his life as a mercenary, saw killing a child as a ticket to a secure future. He had no reason to refuse. Rick wouldn't accept this. The two, who had been joking moments before, suddenly found themselves in a fierce fight. Severely injured, Rick struggled against the unharmed Gasper and was quickly overpowered. Fortunately, Owen heard the commotion and fired 2 shots at Gasper, saving Rick. Though rescued, the gunshots alerted nearby police, making escape crucial. Rick reached out to Amir, who also wanted Owen back. They formed an uneasy alliance to get to their extraction point, knowing survival was slim. Rick would serve as a distraction, while Amir took Owen to the rendezvous, fully aware they were likely facing a deadly ambush. Rick returned to the rooftop of a residential building, aiming his grenade launcher at a car below and unleashing a massive explosion, capturing everyone's attention. He then unleashed a hail of bullets to create an opening. Amir quickly drove off with Owen, but their cover was blown, forcing Amir to open fire, relying on the terrain and grenades to keep them safe for the time being. Noticing the commotion on the bridge, Amir dispatched 2 more teams as reinforcements. Meanwhile, Rick had fought his way out of the building but was unaware that Amir had deployed a military helicopter, raining down machine gun fire. Amir had no choice but to flee desperately. At the critical moment, Nick finally arrived at the other end of the bridge, using a grenade launcher to target the helicopter. At the same time, Rick single-handedly decimated the enemy forces. Go quickly. Hurry up. Take him. Don't run away. Stop running. As they rushed toward the bridge for backup, they didn't realize there was a hidden sniper nearby. Just as Amir took down a soldier, he was shot in the head in the next moment. The colonel, spotting Rick, also fired, hitting Rick in the shoulder. Nick finally spotted the colonel's position and took him down with a headshot. Rick, covered in blood and seriously injured, in a daze, saw his son again. Owen, beside him, cried uncontrollably, unable to believe that a mercenary who had no connection to him would go to such lengths. Rick told Owen that the extraction helicopter was just ahead. At Rick's urging, Owen started running, while Rick, using the last of his strength, fought to ensure Owen's safe escape. Nick picked up Owen and was about to take Rick home. But just then, Rick was shot from behind. The shooter was the young boy Rick had spared earlier. Rick felt his strength slipping away rapidly. As he staggered to the edge of the bridge, Owen, seeing Rick wounded, rushed towards him, only to be held back by Nick. Rick took one last look at them before falling off the bridge, his vision fading as he seemed to see his son once more. A few months later, Amir, in his luxurious surroundings, was ambushed in a restroom by Nick, ending his life in revenge.